A very good evening. Thanks for tuning in to the Urban Debate with me, Sharlene Lobo. Life as a single mother is never easy, especially not in a traditional society like India. How often have you been asked to use your father's name or husband's name as your middle name? For a large section, it's normal and given for you to fill in both your parents' name on your birth certificate, Aadhaar, passport, PAN, and that laundry list of documents. But what if a child who was either born to an unwed mother, or was never parented by, or has never seen his or her father? Can such a child choose to get rid of that father's name category on their documents? Well, in a landmark ruling, the Kerala High Court has allowed the son of an unwed woman to keep his mother's name alone in the documents. The petitioner had moved court as his father's name was different in 3 of his documents. The court said that children of unwed mothers and rape victims can also live in this country with the fundamental rights of privacy, liberty, and dignity. None can intrude into their personal life, and if it happens, the Constitutional Court will protect their fundamental rights. It went on to cite the Mahabharata saying, and I quote, "We want a society with no such characters like Karna, who curses his life because of the insult he faced for not knowing the whereabouts of his parents." So what does this mean? This means that the son can now avail of government ID proofs from his birth certificate to his passport and even education or degree certificates with only his mother's name. Now, in a traditional society like India, there's always been an obsession with family names and father's name per se. Some children have even come out to narrate their ordeal. In one such case, according to The Wire, a man faced several rejections and had to wait for 5 years to get the name changed in his PAN card. The authorities raised their eyebrows when they heard him say that he wanted to remove his father's name. Someone even went to the extent of asking his mother to hire a stand-in father to make passport application easy. So what is, after all, this obsession with father's name? Courts are clearly batting for individuality. But is this enough to shatter the patriarchal mindset? Will this empower those single or unwed women who have been looked down on in society? Are government officials at such application counters aware of the laws, and are they educated or sensitive enough to leave the father's name section blank without batting an eyelid? To discuss this evening, I'm joined by Kaleeswaram Raj, who is a Supreme Court and Kerala High Court advocate. I'm also joined by Laila Zafar, a lawyer and a single mother from Kerala herself. Thank you so much for joining us this evening and speaking. Mr. Kaleeswaram, let me come to you first. Over the last decade, a number of court orders and regulations have allowed citizens to use their mother's names, but this particular order specifically indicates that if, it is one's constitutional right to have the father's name not included. And therefore, by extension, it is backing women empowerment and individuality. What are the far-reaching implications of this order, according to you?
Thank you, Shalin, for taking up this topic for discussion, because it's basically I find that this is a very instructive judgment. This is substituting constitutional morality for social morality, or the so-called individual morality. This is a big boost against patriarchy and in favor of individual rights, civil liberties, and especially women's rights. That is the basic message which the judgment is conveying. I should say, as you indicated in your question, there have been a lot of judgments which have been upholding women's rights in different contexts. For example, a 2009 judgment authored by Justice K.G. Balakrishnan, a 3-judge bench judgment in 2009 set, or rather underlined, the reproductive rights of women. That said, that a woman has the right to choose either to have abortion or not, and nobody can put it upon her. Nobody can compel her. Nobody can discard her choice in that regard. That was the 2009 judgment. Again in 2015, ABC versus State. That again is a Supreme Court judgment where a Christian woman's right was held to be in affirmative. That was a case where the right to have the parentage shown in the records by the Christian woman as against a putative father was upheld by the Supreme Court. Now, coming to this judgment authored by Justice Kunnikrishnan of Kerala High Court, this is a landmark judgment which underlines the, as you indicated in the question, there could be a deserted wife or a wife who has chosen to have this artificial reproductive technology, which we generally call as art, or even a victim who was, say, for example, a victim of an offense like rape, or in certain situations where there would have been a kind of consensual sex and the child is born. In all these cases, women suffer and the children also suffer. This should not happen. That is the message at the individual level, at the micro level. This is the message with the Kerala High Court has given.
Right.
Of course, with the analogy of Karna, this is a kind of situation where the constitutional court has constitutionalized the predicament of the epic character. But Karna is not an individual. Karna is not even a character. Karna is rather a phenomenon. Karna is a predicament. That is how this judgment becomes important and significant for the future generations and for the entire country. Yes.
Right. Right. Ms. Zafar, let me come to you. As a single parent yourself and as someone who's fighting for the cause, what are the social stigmas? What are the myths and stereotypes around single parenting? I believe you've spoken to many families out there. What is the hurdles that they face on a day-to-day basis?
Sorry, is the question for me?
Yes, Zafar.
Sorry, I lost you in the middle. Thank you so much for having me. I run a support group for single parents. So I've spoken to, I can assure you nobody in India has spoken to more single parents than I have in the last 2.5 years. So yes, I do applaud the Kerala High Court for coming out with such an incredible ruling. But again, my struggle is on the daily, or my single parents or my community, the struggle is on the daily. So I'm a little, on the down low, because I wish that the ruling will give birth to more conversations in this direction, because there are mothers who are not unwed or who are not rape victims, who face abuse even after the divorce papers are signed. They are denied opportunity to travel because fathers, even after having zero to no contact with their children after the divorce, deny the mothers just because they want to continue the abuse or the power that they still hold as fathers in that relationship, right? So I'm very happy for the two classes that are covered here, but which is unwed mothers and rape victims, and also people have become mothers by other means. But I do hope that in the near future that this conversation is picked up and more rulings come out, more stories are heard, and more single parents are included in the ambit of the law, because there is such a large community that still has to re-traumatize themselves every time they need to go to apply for a visa, every time they need to renew the passport of their children or go to school, simply because we are systemically abused, where people will not even allow us access to things that we should be allowed to as a citizen, because we don't want to have anything, or we don't have anything to do with the father of the child. I understand that there is a perspective on that the courts or the legal system is trying to protect the right of the child. But on the daily, this abuse has to be curtailed. Right. If you understand. So my opinion is coming from the vantage point of having access to many, many stories. It's not just even for patriarchy or, the 100-year rule or, where this will go. I'm saying on the daily. I talk to mothers every single day who have to struggle with just getting documentation, paperwork filed. And they just go for years without passports and, Aadhaar cards or what. Aadhaar card, I think still now is happening. But, abuse is rampant. Community.
Right.
So I'm happy, and I'm very proud of my High Court. I'm also a lawyer, so I'm very happy they've come out with this ruling, but I do hope that this conversation continues, and I'm very happy that you've raised this conversation on your platform. It's very important.
Right, and we'll continue to do so. Ms. Zafar, just a follow-up there. You did speak about abuse and trauma, and I'm certain you've spoken to various families, and we can barely reckon the kind of harrowing time they face. What kind of discrimination and ridicule and abuse and trauma that you were talking about, what is the kind of discrimination that children of single parents face?
Is that for me again?
Yes, Ms. Zafar.
So as I told you, the struggle is daily. One ruling for two classes of people who are given power as single parents is not enough. Children are denied admission in schools, in good schools. I'm not talking about your small, village, or I'm not even going into that, but I'm talking about big schools in big cities, right, are denied admission only because the mother has no documentation, no contact with the father. But they insist on having the father's name. They insist on having the father on WhatsApp groups or, on the lines of communication around the child, even when you have a document from the court saying that I have full custody of the child. So this is an adult level conversation, but of course the repercussion of that, the repercussion of that is felt by the child or the children who are growing in that environment, right? I know children of single parents in Kerala itself who have faced abuse in school. They are bullied by other kids. They are kept away from social situations, parties, simple birthday parties, which is every child's right, to go to a birthday party and enjoy. These are denied. I myself am facing it. I won't deny it. I would call myself mildly entitled, but I'm still denied access to a huge social group because people don't know what to do with me. She's a single parent, she's working. What do you do? Is she gonna, take away my husband? Is she going to, influence other people to get divorced? Is she gonna start conversations which we are not equipped to have at this moment? So I know that my child is suffering some sort of backlash, but of course, this is something we have to do on the daily, which is why I'm saying that, yes, we can celebrate this ruling, but we should not sit down and take it as, one and done, because the abuse of divorce continues far into time, space, and every unimaginable quantum that you can imagine, right? So
certainly it is a welcome ruling, but a long way to go until we defeat that stigma, as you said. Sadly, that stigma and that bias and that prejudice is deep rooted in our traditional society. I'm also joined this evening by Bhavna Ramana, actor and activist. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I'd like to come to you. What perpetuates this mindset? We heard Ms. Zafar speak about the obsession with the father's name and the husband's name. There's that insistence even at schools and colleges where they need to fill that column. So what perpetuates this mindset? For one, I know traditional movies and TV series have placed this emphasis on the father's name, on being your father's heir. So what, according to you, should be done to change the public discourse and mindset here? Where do we begin with?
Ma'am, thank you so much for having me for the show. I mean, like, changing the mindset, I think it's a long way. Basically, it's right now that we should be happy. This is what has come from the court, and then it's not this is the first time. Actually, this has been out in the court, but there's not been an acceptance on the like the way they mentioned earlier in the panelists that in the certificates and passport and things like that, they really make sure that the father's name is actually mentioned there. In fact, we should also thank Ms. Mallika Sarabhai, who started this whole notion, I think, long years back, who said husband name should be taken off from the passport and then it should be considered as spouse and things like that, She was the one who started it. But as me as an individual, I'm not married, and I'm single, and I've not been in a greater relationship for a long time, and then I'm not in a live-in relationship though. But then I'm a person, as a woman, I really have a liking to be a mother. But then in my house, actually, my parents are very, very open to it since long years, actually, because I'm friends with Miss Kavita Lankesh also. She was the one who really declared herself as a single mother and not disclosing her spouse name, in fact. But then later on, when I asked her how was it to bring up the child, she has a girl child, and then how was it to bring up the child, and then she has no qualms about it at all, and she didn't face any kind of difficulty. That's because it's Bangalore city. But at the same time, one of my relatives, she has a children, and then she was going through a bad phase in her marital life, and then when the kid was going to the school in his primary section itself, and in fact, teachers are not really treating him well. The kid was really not treated well by the teachers, and we had to go and fight with the teacher. And then we said, that's not the way really you treat the child. And then you say that, the teachers were telling on the face of the kid that, his parents are not going through a good marital life, and then they're separated. And these are things which is completely not a good narrative for a child, as in when the kid is only of 6 years old or 7 years old. But I think it's something that, one, it is the mindset of the people which has to really change. And in the society, the acceptance has to be in a greater way, I think, for a single woman.
Right.
Not just single woman. I mean, like, now this is even more welcoming, whether they're married, not married, that's something really great. That's something really that I'm really looking for. In fact, you will not believe it, okay? In fact, I asked a couple of my friends to help me out to become a mother, and then even I was looking out for a donor and things like that. Even the adoption of a child is so difficult for an unmarried woman, and even to get a donor, it is so difficult, you know that. When I called up one of the doctor in a hospital, in fact, she has been a gynecologist, and she said, the first question she asked me was whether I'm a married woman. And the minute I said I'm not married, she just disconnected the phone call.
And that's what even we did see some stories.
It has to start from, we're not just talking about society when...
Got it, yeah.
Correctly. We've also seen certain stories where a son has come out to say that he went to his school and asked the principal that he wanted to remove the name of his father on the certificate, and the administration, they raised their eyebrows, and clearly even you were saying that where even the donors are surprised at that. So do you admit that there is a transition here from, while we still face that problem, but clearly you've also said that these times are welcoming times. So you do see that transition from the obscurities of the early 2000s to the way times are now?
Sorry, you're asking me?
Yes. Yes, Ms. Bhavna. I'm asking you if there is a transition, if there is a clear-cut transition from the early 2000s
what
to
I have
now.
seen, because... Yes, very much. But then I will also say the mindset of the people. I think people in the town side, women are much more, they have a healthier mindset, I would say. And they want every woman to be a mother. They really feel nice when they ask. I mean, like here in India, they just take a pleasure of asking anybody about whether you're married, you have children. It's a very common thing that you come across as, especially in your own native and things like that. But then what I have found out is women from the villages and the town, they're much more of they have more warmth, and they want every girl to go through this whole process of becoming a mother. But then actually a couple of men in the metro cities or the urban area, I have spoken to a couple of my friends who are men and women, and most of the time they have, and they're also educated. So they have asked me to think twice on it. They've asked me, are you really ready mentally, because you know what you're going to go through and what the child is going to go through.
Right.
So it's, I don't know, it's a very different mindset.
Right. I'd like to get in Mr. Kaleeswaram on this. It's only when one among the thousands who are struggling, who go out there and, someone who knocks the doors of court, that certain archaic and patriarchal rules are called out and changed. But why do we have to escalate this issue to the level of the court? Why can't we just normalize the so-called anomalies of single parenting?
That's an intelligent question, but I should say that it takes time. Even for the court, it has taken time. See, essentially, this has been a kind of 21st century jurisprudence, if you look at it. You could not have rather imagined a judgment in this line, say in the 1980s or 1970s or during those olden periods. And I have gone through some literature which said that even during the 1980s, even the European courts were using the terminology as living in sin. That is the word used, that is the phrase used. Whereas we have now converted that. The vocabulary of law has changed. Now we call it as living together. You know, the judgment in Kushbu versus Kaniyamma, a 2010 judgment, where the actresses had opined certain things with respect to premarital sex. Which the Supreme Court said she is entitled to have that opinion. That is protected under Article 19(1)(a) of the Constitution. But this kind of evolution has taken place even in the judicial forum. That has taken time. That did not happen overnight. Therefore, coming to the society, it may take further time. That is quite natural. But as you indicated, it is very, very significant to educate the public, because it is not so easy to replace the social morality with the ideals and ideas of constitutional morality. That requires a kind of public education. It's in that way the media has a role, like the court. The court also has been doing that. Just it is something more than a mere adjudication. This is also a process of education in which the intellectuals have a role, media have a role, and all others enlightened citizens in the civil society have a role. It will take some time, but it's a process which is happening.
Right. So as we mentioned earlier, that things have changed, but a still long way to go there. Ms. Zafar, what is the support system to single parents in India? And more importantly, what is the help given to children who are caught in the middle of their parents' messy divorce? Because they are the ones at the end of the day, unfortunately, who stand to lose the most. Is it hard for them to find the much needed hand-holding?
I don't know what words to use. I'm at a loss for words. There's absolutely no support. I constantly talk about on my platform, I say the only way to change or create change among children is if the mother or the primary custodian of the child is able to accept that reality that I am a single parent, right? Because even a lot of single moms that I interact with, they come with this whole baggage of, I did everything that I was supposed to do. I went to, let's say, college, I worked, I got married, arranged marriage, whatever, and it didn't work out for me. Why did it work out for them and not for me? So there's a lot of baggage that the adult in the situation carry. See, in my personal experience, my child was 3.5 when we got divorced, when his father and I got divorced. But with conscious conversation with him, right, I would obviously get therapy for myself. I would also, heal that situation. And this is what I talk about all the time in my group. This change has to come in the adult in the situation. So if it's a teacher who's denying my child opportunity, then I should sit down and have a conversation with their teacher, which is what I do. Right? This is very myopic if we are going to say that laws will not protect my child or, laws will not protect me. Why not? If you go to any other continent or any other progressive country, take Europe, USA or UK, whatever, they have come a long way. If somebody heckles or bullies my child in school, I have recourse in law. What do I do here? I go talk to the principal and say, these things happen. It's okay. We'll take care of it. Then it happens again. There is no recourse in law for me. How is my child protected if the law does not step in and say, I'm protecting you, I'm giving you benefits, I'm giving you, tax benefits on maintenance, I'm going to force the father to pay money to raise that child, right? So because the entire carpet is pulled from under your feet, it's not just schools, it's everything. Your entire life changes, right? The child would be used to a certain life with both parents, right? And when it comes down to a single income mother who's raising the child, you have to sacrifice a lot. I'm talking about the day-to-day struggles, right? I mean, we should really zoom in and see the day-to-day struggle to really understand this, right? As good as this ruling is, every single day for me is a struggle. Mm-hmm. I'm just talking about myself, right? So I think if the children have to heal and be in a more healing environment, the adult in that situation should step up, and they are the ones that need to be supported. And yes, that support has to come from the government also. The medical systems have to support, therapists have to educate themselves, learn how to treat this situation. Corporates have to step up. I'm talking to corporations now to, make their policies more inclusive for all single parents, bring in buddy parents, check up on single parents who are alone in different cities. I'm alone with my kid. What will happen if, God forbid, something happens to me? So do that, and that ground level work has to be done on an individual level. And if the government protects me, then why not? That is a protection that nobody can deny me as a citizen, right? So that adjudication is very, very important. The legal system has to level up and really understand that one single ruling might help a certain section of the community, but there is a vast majority of mothers who are also suffering the stigma of the same type. And if you're going to tell me today, a lot of single moms call me and say, what is this ruling, man? Why are we not included in that? What do you say to such mothers?
Clearly, it needs collective effort there. And as you said, we need to see that practical change on ground. And therefore, Mr. Kaleeswaram, my question to you is, what about red tapeism in India? It's a known fact that you go to a government office, even a single alphabet here and there, and I'm, personally, even I've faced that, single alphabet here and there in your name, and you're made to run pillar to post, because it's a general assumption among government office bearers that everyone has and should have all the necessary family information to fill in those laundry list of documents. Therefore, I want to ask you, is our government officials who sit at the application counters, are they ready for this change? What about their attitude and perception? Will this ruling change that?
There has to be a kind of sea change in the executive attitude. In fact, I should add one more thing. There is a particular kind of application form with respect to the parentage and things like that. And in another judgment in 2021, last year, the Kerala High Court itself had to rule that in the case of this category of children or the single mother, the form itself will have the format of the application itself will have to be altered, changed. There is a column for father, there is a column for mother. It said that in the court said in a 2021 judgment, that again is from Kerala High Court, The court directed the government to alter that. In the case of single mother, it has to be altered according to the directive of the court. And that had to be changed by the executive. But as you said, in day-to-day affairs, the retapism has to go. For that, there has to be some stringent measures. It may not be just enough to have the jurisprudence in the thin paper, as we call it. There has to be thick executive action. For that, there will have to be directives, not just from the court, but the government, the executive government, will have to take it seriously, and strict instructions will have to be given for each and every minor things, as it has been indicated by my co-panelists Bhavana and Laila. On day-to-day affairs, there will have to be, at the micro level, there will have to be directives, instructions, and the court may have to supervise that. But so much of things will have to be done at the micro level. The government will have to take it seriously, will have to take into account certain concrete instances where these children are suffering, where these women are suffering. This you will have to understand. What the court has exercised is also a parent-patry jurisdiction. The court has done it in the best interest of the children. To have the effect of the judgment, the executive will have to be acting. And if the executive doesn't act, the government at the cabinet level, at the helm of affairs, will have to give necessary directives so as to ensure the proper implementation of the directives by the government, which requires a kind of follow-up action, for which the judicial judgment, judicial pronouncement can act as a catalyst.
Right. Right. So certainly we need that, that's something that on ground there's that change that, acts like a catalyst there. Ms. Bhavna, I'd like you to comment on this. Ruling by the Kerala High Court, this orders a step closer to shattering patriarchal mindset, and that is why we're having that discussion in the first place. Do you think this ruling will help singles like yourself to get on with your lives as empowered individuals? Clearly, because the High Court is batting for individuality there. So to get on with yourselves, get on with your life as empowered individuals and not as shadows of your former selves.
Right.
Yes, yes. Coming from Kerala, Kerala is actually a matriarchal society, and this is what is coming from Kerala. It's really more welcoming, in fact. So, and
being
Karnataka,
a matriarchal society,
yes,
there, I think it is just befitting for the court order to come out from the state of Kerala.
No, it is matriarchal for sure, but that we're not saying
it's really welcoming. It's something that all of us can really.
But Kerala has also got its matrilineal system of inheritance. That's another stream of it.
But I'm saying at a ground level, at a day-to-day, there is discrimination.
Yes.
Absolutely. Kerala does have its own flaws there. But, coming back to this order, Ms. Bhavna, go ahead with how do you think this is going to help your life at the personal level?
Ma'am, I have one question that from the legal thing, somebody was talking, say legal perspective, and I think he's an advocate because I can't really see the screen here. So he did mention that it has to go through the government, it has to go through the House, it has to be discussed in the Parliament, and then it has to go to the ministry level, and then it has to come to the bureaucratic level. Why can't, I just have one small question, the court cannot have any direction directly to the government, you mean? I just need this clarification. Can't they just do that? Can't they direct the government to...
And I'll explain
Sir,
why.
I assume this question is to you.
No, it's obviously to the senior lawyer, but I want to interject here. So
Yes, please go ahead, Zafar.
I'll tell you, this question is a very important one, okay? And the legal system is very, very difficult in India. And on the day-to-day, I take up lots of cases and consultations with mothers, okay? And the feedback that we always get is that it's very negative to go through divorce, go through all of that situations, right? Now, if I have to go through the government and file even a bill, right? I've had instances where I've tried to file a bill and I was told, well, this will come into direct conflict with our religious bodies in Kerala. I was told this by a government body that I cannot talk about here. But so this, when you're standing in a position on an island where people are telling you that this, if you say that single mothers are legal, they should get benefits, and this is in direct conflict with the institutions of religion, whatever it might be, right? Who, talk about marriage, talk about divorce as being, a very bad thing, and you absolutely should not go there. So your day-to-day struggle comes and you tolerate abuse, you take all kinds of, abuse. The system itself is telling you, just don't. It's going to take a lot of time. So just let's not go there. So I have been beaten down multiple times, but I would like to just interject there before our senior takes on the conversation. Please go ahead.
Ms. Bhavna, your opinion, you've had your question answered there.
I hope so. I hope it's just a day-to-day struggle that I'm on.
Yes, ma'am. But then here, ma'am, with the divorce thing, it's completely a different narration, because the woman or the man in the relationship, they're going through a different emotional trauma they're going through. There is a lot of when they're separating, there are a lot of things happening. When they join and when they got married, there's a lot of joy. So there are a lot of things when it's a marriage. Somebody like me, I really, as a woman, I really think that it's my integrity to become a mother. I have all the right to become a mother. And this is how actually I argued with so many. I really would want to become a mother. And then for somebody like me, it's something really different, because now it's really more joyful, because it's not about me going through the other hardships and other traumatic conditions that I've been targeted by the people or the court. I'm not going through all that. So for me, it's a different thing. If I have to adopt a child, am I really, because unmarried women are not given an adoption right also. That's also there. I don't know whether that is included in this or not. But then to become a mother, it's something really more important for any woman. I think she should go through it. It is her right. It is her nature. It is her nature to be a mother. So I don't think there should be any kind of barriers or any kind of discrimination when it comes to
absolutely.
women
Ms.
becoming a
Bhavna,
mother.
I'm certain that very soon, the pathway will be smooth, and not just this ruling. I'm hopeful that in the future also you will have multiple such rulings. I'll give one last word to Mr. Kaleeswaram there, because I know he had a point to make before I wrap up this discussion. Mr. Kaleeswaram, go ahead.
Yes, I will just supplement, make a very short supplement to what Laila has been telling. Of course, this judiciary has rather got an activist role. It has to be proactive. So many things will have to be done. As in the case of lesbians, for example, judiciary has laid down the law in several kind of judgments. But at concrete level, the executive had to work. The executive had to formulate, say, guidelines, rules, regulations, etc., etc. Because the concrete situations may not be very much placed before the courts or constitutional court. And you see in the rural areas, for the poor, some micro situations like how this form is, or to whom I should approach. How can I erase the name of a this putative father from the records? These may be situations which will call for executive attention. So in those cases, the executive also will have to be rather activated by the government. Everybody may not be able to approach the constitutional court for each and everything in the daily life. That's why it requires an education at the governmental level as well. The political parties also should take care of this, and they should also carry out their role. That's what I was indicating. Of course, the court is having the basic role, which the court has performed. And for that, an encomium is really due.
Right. Right. On that note, we'll have to wrap up this discussion there. So clearly, we have seen a progressive ruling from the High Court there, as we've all discussed that this is a giant leap. Times are changing. We were in the obscurities in the early 2000s, but now it's different, and we still have a long way to go. While we do have one progressive ruling today from the Kerala High Court, we hope for multiple such orders that empower individuals, rulings that bat for individuality, that help cases like these, like in this case, the petitioner who wanted to get rid of the father's name on the ID document and got so through legal discourse. But nonetheless, we need to create that legal awareness, and that is a huge step towards helping them go forward and carry on with their lives as empowered individuals.